If you love to travel and you love to scrapbook, I have a game-changing new tool for you that I'm excited to share. I have pictures from our recent trip to Hawaii, so I have picked a whole bunch here, and I am going to use the new creative design team Wander and Remember Scrapbooker's Guide to Capturing Your Travels. Now, this is different than anything you've seen from us before because it is not only a sketchbook, there are sketches inside, but it's a complete how-to type guide. So it has tips for before you travel, during your travels, and even afterwards. Things like tips for taking better photos, what kinds of photos to make sure you capture, managing your overwhelming camera roll, and how to get going on documenting your project after the fact. And that's where the sketches come into play. Today, I am going to be doing this sketch here from Erin. And the thing that I think is super useful is we have all done videos for all of these sketches. So you can see the finished layout as well as the black and white sketch. And then there's a QR code you can scan or a link that you can click that will take you to this video on YouTube. So if you need some more inspiration or you want to hear some of the tips and tricks that are shared in those videos, you can go ahead and watch the video. I love that it's all together in one little package. And this book is now available for purchase. It is a downloadable guide, so that means that you can put it in whatever you want. A binder, you can send it to places like Staples and get it bound for you. I have one of these little books from the dollar store, and it has like top loading sleeves, and so I've just put it in there for now. I might get it bound because I think it would be really nice to have it on my shelf that way. But it's totally up to you how you want to reference it. You can even just leave it on your computer, and that way you can click through to the video links as well. Really hope that you enjoy this new concept that we are trying out. And let's have a look at the pictures I have chosen. There are lots of photo opportunities on this page, and a lot of the sketches in this book are focusing on lots of photos because if you're anything like me, when you travel, you take a ton of photos and you're wanting to fit as many as possible. So we have some little 2.5-inch photos here. This was our first night at our resort, and I have a picture of our room in here as well. We were staying at the Fairmont on Maui, and I got this nice shot of our room. It was such a beautiful room. We actually had an ocean view this time. We went to this resort last year, and it was actually so much fun to go back to the same place. We almost never go to the same place twice, and this was Isabella's second trip there as well, and we all just had the best time. That first night, they had a beautiful dinner out on the lawn, and they were serving drinks and nice desserts and music playing. It was just a really beautiful evening. And this I had to include as a 4x6. This is a shot from the lobby of the hotel looking out towards the pools and the ocean. And literally every time I walk past this view, I'm just like, oh, it's so pretty. And different times of day, it looks different. You can see the sun is starting to set over there. And so I knew I had to include that one as a large photo. So I'm gonna bring in my base pages and then we can start building this. On my layout today, I am going to mix 3 different paper packs actually. So one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I really wanted to use the Utterly Adorable paper. I have a little bit left of this pack. I want to use it up. And so I needed to be very careful with what I cut from it because I didn't have much left. So this paper and this paper are from the Utterly Adorable pack. It was in the last chance section on like really good sale, but I checked the other day and it's gone now. I'm kind of wishing I would have picked up another one, but I brought in some of the woven textures because I think that goes really beautifully together. And any of the woven textures just makes me think of like beach. I'm also bringing in this green pattern from the Celebratory Sips collection. I was actually going to try and use that collection for this whole layout, and it just was not coming together. I didn't like how it was looking, so I decided to just use this green paper because it's old olive and it matches the old olive in this paper, and so it goes really beautifully. It's very subtle print. You wouldn't know that I'm mixing collections at all. And then the blue is also from Utterly Adorable. And I will link everything that I can down in the description box for you guys. Now I looked at the colors that I'm using in my paper and I decided to go with Pretty Peacock for my mats. Following the sketch, these two have some larger mats, so they're kind of like a statement on the page. And I like how the darker color just draws your eye in. You have the contrast of the white. The white is actually just a border printed on my photos. And then for our smaller one down the sides, I have some Lost Lagoon cardstock, and that's where I'm going to put these ones. So I will do a better job of spacing those out, but that's going on there like that. I thought about using the Pretty Peacock. Lost Lagoon is another color in this paper right here, and I thought it was nice to have a little bit of differentiation between these so that the eyes really go to my two main photos, and these are a little bit more like supporting photos. And then over on this side, I decided to use white. I was debating just copying this side and using the Lost Lagoon, but we don't have a ton of this showing, and I think this works pretty good. Just with a little frame of white around the edge, helps it pop against these patterns. And I want some room for embellishing, so I don't want to get too wide with my mats. Now I wanted to work in some pink somewhere here. Like we have a little bit of like pinkish orange in the sky. Over here, we have a little bit of yellow back here. We have some like yellow and red in this one, some purpley pink kind of in there. So I'm bringing in another piece from Utterly Adorable. These tags are from this new set. This is a Pattern Tags die, and this one just came out in the new mini catalog. So I used just the plain one, not the pattern ones. And I cut it out in 3 of the patterns. So I'm gonna bring in this coral color and also the pinkish tone. So we're gonna tuck these under here. I think this needs to come down a little bit more. This is going to be kind of the landing spot for our title. And of course, I will get some thread in those as well. I want to make sure that I leave room for my journaling down here because I do want to talk about kind of the feelings of being back, how it kind of felt like coming home. It's fun to go somewhere again, considering we usually just go places once, and that's kind of it. We might go to Hawaii, but stay somewhere different. So it was really fun to go back to the same resort. We already knew where everything was. And this time having an oceanfront room was just so enjoyable. I'm going to go ahead and ink my edges with gray granite. Try it out and see if that's the color I want to go with. It does match this collection, and I would like just a little bit of definition on my edges. Going into this trip, I decided to make it a point to make sure I was journaling every night if I could, or whenever I had time to make a few notes. Lots of times for beach vacations, we're doing a lot of the same things. I mean, we easily spent 4 hours a day just in the pool because Isabella was learning to swim and discovering all these new skills. So we did a lot of the same things, but we went to different restaurants, and I tried to include some thoughts and feelings to kind of better capture my memories. Lots of times I think I'm going to remember, but I just don't. And I'm so glad that I have those notes. I have to realize that I'm just not the person that's going to type them into my phone. I need to bring a physical notebook. So it really helps to know yourself. I also made it a point to just get the photos. Sometimes I get busy and I forget, or I start feeling a little bit shy to take a selfie or to ask somebody to get pictures of us. And this time I really tried to just take the time, ask the people, and get the photos. And I'm so glad I did. There are a lot of really good tips in the Wander and Remember guide, just helping you think of things like lighting and angles and some of those things that maybe you don't think of or you can't really put into words, but it makes such a big difference in your finished photos. I'm going to go ahead and finish this inking, and then we can move on to the next step. Off camera, I've been playing around with some options for the title. I went ahead and stuck everything down except for these tags because I want to be able to move them back and forth and just see how high I need them once I do the title. So that's going to be our next step, is to add our title. And I'm just going to put the name of the hotel. So it's the Fairmont in Maui, Hawaii. I was trying to come up with something super clever, but not every page has to have a super clever title, and this is going to kind of be my opening page to this part of my album. That's something that I decided to do more recently is instead of having like a whole album for each trip, I want to start just doing like a few layouts for each trip, especially if we're going back to the same place or even just like Hawaii in general. We've been a few times now, and I think it's good enough if I just do a few pages from each trip and I can put them all into one Hawaii album. I was also thinking I could do it by year if we have like multiple trips in a year, or the CDT trips that I take with the girls. I can combine all of that into an album and have several trips in the same album. So I don't exactly need a single page to start off my whole album about this trip. A double page will work really well. If you do like having an opening page and a closing page for your album, Julie created a really pretty one you could either do together as a 2-page layout or as a title page and an ending page, which is really awesome to have that already laid out for you. But I was playing around with ideas and I decided I wanted to do print then cut on my Cricut for this part because it's smaller and I hate having to like piece together letters that are that small. So what I did is I actually created the Fairmont title. I used the Autumn and November font for that. And then I used another font called Optima. I think that one is a system font. So, but any kind of like printed font I think would be fine. And I selected those, created an offset. That's what this kind of like bubble outline is called. It's an offset in Cricut Design Space. And then I moved this one off of the canvas and I went ahead and made these into a print and cut, attached them and flattened them together. Then I took this one and kept it as a cut and created another offset. Now the nice thing is when you're looking at this on your screen, you can actually like overlay them and make sure you have enough margin around them. And then the challenging thing is deciding what color. I figured I want the word Fairmont to be pretty dark, so I cut that in pretty Peacock. And then I experimented with what colors to cut my little offset in. So I have this one in the Lost Lagoon. Is nice, but I feel like it doesn't create enough contrast and it just kind of blends in a little bit too much. If I was going to use the Lost Lagoon, I might want to do my title in like black or something, or gray, something that would stand out a little bit more from that. Then I tried Calypso Coral, which is this coral color that's in here. And that works. We got good contrast, but I wasn't sure that I loved it. I was like, I'm not sure if I really like that combination. And so then I also tried this one called Petal Pink, which actually is more of a peach color. And there is a little bit of that in here. It goes really nice with Calypso Coral. I thought I liked that combination the best. Now, the nice thing about not doing this part as a print and cut means I can glue these together and I can pop this up onto the white. And I think that's gonna look really cool layered together. So I'm just going to take my Barely Art glue and I'm gonna move my page out of the way a little bit so I don't have to worry about spilling on it. And this is usually what I do for really delicate die cuts. I just go ahead and put glue on them, like little bits of glue. This fine applicator works really well for this. And then I will just stick it on there and then I can pop the whole thing up and add a little bit of dimension. I don't tend to add a ton of dimension on my pages, but it is nice to have a little bit here and there. All right, I put on that final layer with dimensionals, and that gives us just a nice little lift here. If you like your titles like super dimensional, you could also do another layer of dimensionals and have that pop up off your page. I'll think about it. I don't know if I want to go that high. A few years ago, I decided to stop using a lot of dimensionals on my layouts. I love the way it looks, but it just makes my albums that much thicker. So I tend to go for more flat embellishments these days, but I'll see. It might be one of those things where it's worth the little bit extra lift and gives a really special feeling to it. I think I'm gonna want to move these tags in a little bit, and then I want to add some embellishment right here as well. So I'm bringing in my Ocean Friends dies. I think this one is also in the Last Chance section because I love this piece of coral. This is one of the things that Erin used on her layout as well, and I really love this one. To me, it's such a great base for building clusters on top of, and it's super interesting looking. So I couldn't decide what colors I wanted to use. Started off with gray granite, but I think it's gonna be a little too blah. It just kind of fades into the page. And sometimes you don't know until you actually cut it out and just see what it looks like. So that was option number 1. And then I have Lost Lagoon here, which I think could work, and I could make it pop a little bit by doing some ink blending on top of it. But it does, you know, blend in quite a bit as well, which could be fine. Maybe you don't want your clusters to really pop. Maybe you want to keep the excitement, the views on the photos and have a little bit more neutral embellishments. Let's see what that looks like over here. Yeah, it's fine. I think it would work good. But then I cut it out of Balmy blue. And I think this is my favorite. I just love that pop of that brighter blue. And I already know I want to use my Happy Hibiscus. This is like my go-to for Hawaii layouts or tropical layouts in general. And I embossed this with the Happy Hibiscus hybrid embossing folder. So it cuts and embosses at the same time. It doesn't cut out all the flowers, but these are really easy to hand cut. And I've done it before, and it just gives you some extra options. This set also has coordinating stamps. So you can actually do 2-step stamping with the shadow and the outline. Kind of funny because this is also in the last chance section. And if you love hibiscus flowers, I highly recommend getting that one while it's there. I cut it out of Petal Pink, and then I want to do some ink blending on it. But if you were wondering why I chose Petal Pink for my title, hopefully this will make a little bit more sense. I'm hoping to bring in Calypso Coral, so we'll just have a little bit of the Petal Pink. It'll be more of like an accent. I might also switch over to white cardstock and see how that looks as well. So this is kind of just a placeholder to get an idea of what I want to do. On Erin's layout, she does have the tags behind the title. She also has another embellishment area over here, another one down here with that really cute tote bag, and then another one right there. And you can see in her sketch, she also has a little bit of embellishment over here, which I could do as well to keep it kind of flowing over, but I'm not sure it really needs it. I cut out some seashells. This is from an old Close to My Heart set of little dies. I love the size of these. And I just cut them in white for now because I figured I could ink blend on whatever color I decide I want to make them, and that these would be really great additions to the little clusters. You could also go bigger if you wanted to. So just to get a general idea, my journaling is going down here. And then I don't know, I might want to add a little something to that journaling just so that this doesn't look too empty over here. So I probably need to do that next. Type up my journaling and just see what I'm going to put it on. I'm thinking on a white die cut, something that I can just tuck up under here, and we'll see how big this needs to be to fit all of my journaling on there. Actually, before I do my journaling, I want to work on my embellishments. So I'm just bringing in my nonstick craft mat and one of those die cut flowers and Calypso Coral ink with a little blending brush, and I'm just going to start adding some ink, going in a circular motion, kind of starting from the center and blending outwards. I'm not really super happy with how this is looking. I've done this technique before, and maybe because I was working on white or the colors I was using, I don't know, I just liked it a little bit more then, but it's just not doing anything for me. So I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to do some stamping. I went ahead off camera, stamped the outline in Calypso Coral, and now I'm just filling it in with the Petal Pink color. It's a little bit easier to stamp the outline first and then fill in with the lighter color so you can see what you're doing. Now these stamps originally were all grouped together so you could die cut them all at once, but me being silly, cut them apart to use them a different way, so I have to like hand cut them and then use the die, which is kind of a pain, but we still get there in the end. I'm much happier with the stamped flowers. And now I want to add a little bit of color to my seashells. I'm using Lost Lagoon and just blending it up from the edge. I don't want to color the whole shell. I just kind of want a nice fade from one end to the other. I love the look of ombre inking, whether it's fading out to white or you're blending different colors together. I just think it adds some extra interest, and I'm going to go ahead and do this to all of my seashells. Now that I have all my embellishment components, I want to start layering them together and kind of getting an idea of where they're going to go. While I've been looking at this layout, I decided those tags just were not doing it for me. I was not really liking how they were looking. It made it super heavy up at the top of the layout. And so I got rid of them, and I'm actually going to fill in with just more of the embellishments that I'm already using. So I have the coral piece, the flowers, some die cut leaves from that same Happy Hibiscus set, and I'm just going to spread more of those around. I move the flower up here to the top so it's opposite of that other flower cluster. I think it'll be more balanced. And then tuck another seashell under there. And I think that really finishes off the title and makes it very wow, but still light and kind of airy feeling. I cut down some of the coral pieces so I could use them in little snippets and kind of tuck them under. That little word strip is one that I typed out on the computer myself, and I like to have little bits of words to put on my pages. I'm adding another small piece of that coral and a couple other embellishments just to fill in this awkward gap that I had because the die cut that I used for my journaling wasn't quite long enough to match up with my photo, and I think it looks better to have something in that spot. Now my other kind of large embellishment cluster, I have my coral, a couple of flowers, another seashell, and I want to tuck in a couple of leaves and just fill out the bottom part. Those leaves are die cut from old olive cardstock so they match the pattern paper. Now I'm debating adding this last little cluster because I have a lot going on this page, but I feel like it needs the balance of having one more cluster. So I'm adding another small piece of coral, another flower, and a couple of leaves, and I think that works out really good. So you can see here I added dimensionals to pop up my title again, so I actually have 2 layers of dimensionals. And now I'm grabbing these iridescent foil gems, and I'm just going to add a few to my clusters. I love adding gems, it adds a little bit of sparkle, and these are clear with the foil kind of inside of them. So I feel they look sort of like water bubbles and kind of match the vibe of my page. That is my final touch. I'm going to leave it there. I don't think I have room to add anything else, but I love the texture and the layers and the mix of stamping and die cuts going on here. I'm really glad I went ahead and put my journaling on the page so I could see how much room I needed to leave for it before adding my embellishments. Sometimes I just don't leave enough space and then I'm trying to cram my story in and I have to edit it and shorten it. This way I could include everything that I wanted to on there. I hope you're feeling inspired to go scrapbook your travels. Make sure you grab the new travel book. I will link it below. And check out the playlist of all the other CDT videos using the sketches from this book. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon with another video.